The West, including the United States, Germany, and Russia, conducted the largest prisoner swap since the Soviet Union era. The two sides exchanged a total of 24 prisoners in Ankara, Turkey. Turkey and its president, Tayyip Erdogan, played a key role in facilitating the exchange. Turkey, despite being a member of NATO, has maintained solid relations with both Russia and Ukraine, even though they are in their third year of war. This has allowed Turkey to be one of the few countries that can legitimately discuss peace and end the war with both Russian President Vladimir Putin and Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky, bringing about an agreement between the two countries called the Black Sea Initiative to allow Ukraine to sell grain and ship it through the Black Sea without interference from Russia in 2022. Despite showing diplomatic savvy on the world stage, President Erdogan has also had many questionable policies and has proven the West's suspicion of him has merit. Europe, Asia, and the Middle East meet in Turkey, making it a global crossroads. It is also located on the Mediterranean Sea and controls access to the Black Sea. Turkey has been a NATO member since 1952, and it currently has the second-largest army in NATO. Because of its strategic position along the former Soviet Union's southern border, Turkey is important to NATO. The U.S. was able to deploy nuclear weapons in Turkey as a deterrent against the Soviet Union, and it continues to do so today as a reminder to Russia. It is also a Muslim country that has maintained beneficial ties with the non-Muslim world around it, including at times with Israel. The country's strategic geographic position has granted it a degree of influence that few countries can possess, especially when led by competent leadership. As mentioned in this publication, President Erdogan has occasionally shown his commitment to peace in his efforts to end the Ukraine war. A peace talk breakthrough has eluded all parties. But despite this, President Erdogan is one of the few leaders who has the trust of both Russia and Ukraine. This trust has allowed Turkey to play an important role in the prisoner exchange on August 1, 2024, which is admirable. But these positives should not overshadow many of the questionable activities of the Turkish president. In 2017, he urged the Turkish diaspora in Germany to vote against then-Chancellor Angela Merkel, citing German leaders as enemies of Turkey. In 2022, he threatened that Turkey could attack fellow NATO member Greece with missiles that could reach Athens, to name a few of his outlandish outbursts at fellow NATO members. Recently, President Erdogan has continued his unpredictable ways, as he has been a supporter of Hamas and its struggle against Israel. This support is not unusual, as there are a significant number of European countries that are sympathetic to the Palestinian cause. Erdogan shows his support for the Palestinian cause by maintaining friendly relations with the Hamas leadership. Although he did not endorse the October 7, 2023, attack on Israel by Hamas, which resulted in the deaths of 1,200 Israelis and the capture of over 250 others as hostages, he offered his services to negotiate an end to the conflict before Israel began its ground operations in Gaza. Was this a commitment to peace, as seen in his Ukraine-Russian efforts, an attempt to protect Palestinians or Hamas leadership? President Erdogan has publicly expressed his anti-Zionist sentiments, referring to Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu as a vampire and psychopath, comparing him to Hitler and accusing him of genocide in the Gaza war, which has claimed the lives of approximately 39,000 Gazans. Despite the on-and-off relations between Turkey and Israel, there was lucrative Mediterranean trade between the two countries, equivalent to over $100 million a month, until President Erdogan ended all bilateral trade between the two countries, which was a bigger blow to Turkey than Israel. While President Erdogan is not alone in his support for the Palestinians, his rhetoric has included a lack of harsh condemnation of Hamas, even going so far as to call them an organization of liberation. Additionally, he has made public and undiplomatic accusations against Israel and its leadership in the war. This week, President Erdogan took this anti-Israel rhetoric to a new level when he stated that Turkey could enter Israel and support the Palestinians. He added that the Turkish response would have to be strong enough for Israel to cease its attacks on the Palestinians. Erdogan addressed his political party at his ancestral home in Rizal, so it is unclear if this was national policy or just a political rallying cry. It is also doubtful that Turkey has plans for how it could enter the conflict, but Erdogan stated that there was no reason for Turkey not to intervene on behalf of the Palestinians, and that Turkey must take strong steps in the ongoing conflict, citing examples such as its intervention in Libya and its support of Azerbaijan in its brief conflict in Karabakh. Israel's Foreign Minister, Israel Katz, harshly rebuked President Erdogan, comparing his actions to those of the former Iraqi dictator Saddam Hussein, who similarly used rhetoric against Israel to garner international support following Iraq's humiliation over its war with Iran and later Kuwait. Mr. Katz also went so far as to call on NATO to expel Turkey from the military alliance, which was an unwise remark to attempt to dictate to NATO. This led the Turkish communication director to call Mr. Katz a Nazi. Mr. Katz's NATO comment was not a surprise, but it has been a problem because Turkey has blocked all NATO attempts to interact with Israel since the start of the Gaza war. At the NATO-Washington summit in July, President Erdogan went so far as to state that it was impossible for NATO to interact with Israel as long as the current Israeli administration was in power. NATO has a unanimous clause that requires all members to consent to a NATO policy, so Turkey is within its rights to maintain the NATO bloc against Israel. NATO lacks a mechanism for removing a country from the alliance, and Turkey's strategic significance to NATO remains undiminished, particularly given the potential for a new Cold War with Russia. Therefore, realpolitik dictates that Turkey should not face expulsion from NATO. Furthermore, Israel's attempts to impose its will on NATO do not serve the Israeli cause. President Erdogan's undiplomatic attitudes towards Israel are ridiculously out of place in the world of international diplomacy, especially if Turkey does not want to be viewed as a pariah state on the same level as Iran or North Korea. President Erdogan is well aware of this, having successfully navigated negotiations between Russia and Ukraine and facilitated the prisoner transfer this week, all while demonstrating a level of diplomatic adeptness that has yielded favorable results in international diplomacy. These events aim to bolster Turkey's economy and elevate its status in international diplomacy. The fact that he is completely undiplomatic toward Israel, as well as earlier examples from Germany and Greece, demonstrate that his undiplomatic and bellicose threats are intentional and performative. The Turkish president appears dangerously undiplomatic at times, either to rally his domestic support base, divert attention from their economic problems, or assert his leadership over a larger Turkey. The other aspect involves discussing Turkey's role as a protector of Islam and highlighting perceived threats to it. Erdogan is making these attempts to align Turkey with the Islamic world, including Iran, Egypt, and Saudi Arabia, with the sole aim of positioning Turkey as the central hub of Islam, akin to the old Ottoman Empire. He has demonstrated in the past that he has a competent grasp of diplomacy and domestic politics to keep his many opponents off balance. But this week, he seems to have overplayed his hand and reinforced the world's suspicions of Turkey's reliability to further a more stable world. Erdogan has brought Turkey to a new crossroads between being reliably self-aware of its position and dangerously self-indulgent.